It is week 9, starting with Thursday Night Football. Tennessee Titans at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers favored by 2.5 here at home. Short week for Kenny Pickett. He's got a rib injury. It's just a rib, one rib.
A singular rib.
That's what it seems like it's been. But Kenny Pickett looks like he's going to be a go. And Will Levis making his second NFL start. However, his first outside of the city of Nashville.
Also his first as Will Levis and not Will Levis, according to autocorrect.
Yeah, if you've ever typed in Will Levis's name in text message, anywhere, autocorrect will get you.
Who makes that call? Because this seemed to happen, right? After his 4-touchdown performance at the weekend, somebody made the decision, hey, he's earned it now.
He's not Levi's
You don't
anymore.
have to autocorrect his name to Levi's. Brad tweeted this, I think, almost right after the game. He's finally made it. My phone's no longer autocorrecting. You were talking about it today.
Yeah.
Somebody made that call. Somewhere in a room, somebody made the decision that Will Levis has now earned the respect of not having his name autocorrect to the jeans.
That's not part of the algorithm there? That's not part of, hey, we've seen Levi's, edited back to Levis enough
so many times in the last 24 hours.
Yes, that it's just like, okay, maybe the people wanted to say Levis. Maybe they did. Anyway, let's get into the actual action of the game. Steelers coming off a tough loss against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're 4-3, and Titans 1-0 in the Levis era. It sounds like I've heard conflicting things. Like he's probably the starter going forward, right? We're going to see what Levis has. in Tennessee.
I think this game determines some things, right? Like Ryan Tannehill's sidelined for the moment with his injury. I don't know. I would imagine even if he was ready to go this weekend, they would be like, "Hey, why don't you take a couple more days? Just rest up. We kind of want to see this one, And then this game, I think, will determine. Like if Levis goes out there and just has an absolute meltdown and stinks, then maybe Tannehill comes back into the lineup next week. However, if he does anything other than that, I would imagine he would be the starter going forward.
All right. Well, Titans are 3-4. They're in second place, tied with the Colts in the AFC South. What are you looking for in this game besides, in addition to Levis?
Yeah.
Or maybe just what are you looking for from Levis in start 2 here?
That's the thing. It's really, I don't even expect him to back up what he did. 4 touchdowns, I think that was fairly unreasonable in terms of expectations of going forward. What was impressive to me, though, watching his tape, actually, was how poised is maybe the wrong word, but how many answers he had for being hurried and pressured and moved in the pocket, because it wasn't like that offensive line's still bad. It wasn't like that cleaned up and, he had a great situation to work from. The Titans did a good job, I think, of actually reasonably protecting him, getting him on the move, play action, all those kinds of things. They didn't necessarily do it by, passing the ball and first down, all those kinds of things. But the game plan was solid. But every time there was a guy in his face or, the pocket was collapsing or he had to adjust, move off his spot, he did a pretty good job of because that was one of his weaknesses coming out, right, is the mechanics were okay when he was sort of set and could, put his feet where he wanted to. But as soon as that got moved around, particularly if you had to throw left, it sort of jacked his mechanics and the ball would come out in weird angles and just generally he was inaccurate on those plays. And it was almost like the shorter the pass, the more inaccurate he became, largely because there was a lot of those throws where there was a guy somewhere and he had to, contort into weird angles and just dump the ball off. That was different last week. He was really quite impressive on those plays, which are, not the highest degree of difficulty, but you need to get those right. And if you don't, you're not a good quarterback. So I was quite impressed by that. Obviously, he took advantage when he had those deep shots. I mean, it's really just, can he do that again? Because that was definitely an impressive debut, but we know one game is tantamount to meaningless.
Yeah, it is only one game. I was definitely impressed by Will Levis last week, and I was even more impressed by DeAndre Hopkins, which we broke down on the review show pretty extensively. Hopkins had 3 touchdowns on his 4 catches, and it was a little bit of everything, right? Mossing people at the catch point, slick route running, speed after the catch. It was vintage DeAndre Hopkins. And so there have been points in the season where that's how the Titans offense has looked. High volume. This wasn't necessarily high volume. It was high production, but high volume, get the ball to DeAndre Hopkins. And I think against the Steelers, who were just in the mix to potentially trade for Jalen Johnson, the cornerback from the Bears, Steelers have some questions at corner with Patrick Peterson, rookie Joey Porter Jr., Levi Wallace. So I think no matter who is covering DeAndre Hopkins, I think it would be smart of Will Levis to look that way early and often to your go-to guy, because I think that's when this Titans offense is looking really good. You mentioned the game plan was good. The stat that I highlighted on the review show, 33 dropbacks for Will Levis. 20 of them featured either play action and or a screen. Right? So you have, an offense that is creating some easier looks, some open throws, and doing favors for your rookie, which is a great way to get him acclimated to the NFL.
Yeah, the big difference between this week and last week is going to be that offensive line, the pass protection. Atlanta, they're better than they were a year ago, but they're still like bottom third team in terms of pressure rate, right? And the pressure rate tends to be localized up the middle. Like, they don't have any edge rushers, essentially. Now, you're going up against a team that primarily has edge rushers, like TJ Watt. All those type of impact plays are going to be coming around the edge this time. It's just a different dynamic, right? It's not going to be these guys trying to penetrate up the middle, and though they're doing a solid job, like, you can step aside if you know there's nobody coming around the edge, and those are the plays he was making. Now it's a whole different dynamic where all the heat is going to be coming around the edge. Can you step up and navigate in the middle of the pocket? It's a very interesting, like, back-to-back weeks where you might be under pressure both weeks, but the pressure is a completely different type, and you're going to have to navigate each one of them slightly differently.
The Steelers are sitting here at 4-3. They've had just so many games that are uncomfortable. Like, if you're a Steelers fan, you can't be comfortable watching because the offense will have a lot of, hey, we're silent for 3 quarters and we'll have a good fourth quarter. I mean, there's 3 or 4 quarters of action this year where the Steelers offenses look good halfway through the year. But they still have 4 wins, right? Because the defense will keep them in it. And in a few games, Kenny Pickett, George Pickens have had that penchant for big plays when needed. Deontay Johnson a couple weeks ago, some big plays against the Rams. We got a 3-point spread, 2.5 or 3, depending on what you're looking at right now. For the Steelers, despite coming off their loss at home against Jacksonville, and then you laughed earlier in the year, but the Tennessee Titans here, heading into Week 9, 3-0 in the city of Nashville, 0-4 in all other cities in the world, including a home game in London.
Yeah.
And now the Titans, how about this schedule? This is the first of 3 straight road games coming up for the Titans. And if you include the game against Baltimore, which is in London, it'll be 5 out of 6 straight games in which the Titans are not I'm in the friendly confines of Nashville, Tennessee.
So you're saying this is when Tennessee's season collapses?
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying don't overreact to Will Levis.
By the way.
Because he's going on a 3-game road trip here.
These splits, if you look at their schedule, are likely to continue for a while. I mean, we got this Pittsburgh game where Pittsburgh are favored by 2.5 or 3. At Tampa Bay, I mean, that's losable, though winnable as well. At Jacksonville. Then you got the home game, Carolina, Indianapolis without their primary quarterback, away to Miami, back home to Houston, and then Seattle. So, this split could be
This could be the season.
Pretty severe by the time we get to the Week 16 game against Seattle.
This is the time when, coaches try to adjust to the stuff. All right, we've spent enough time. But Mike Vrabel's probably, changing curfew times and times that they fly in. Maybe they're flying in this morning or something to mix it up. This is when you start mixing it up when you're struggling on the road. But all right, 3-point game here, or 2.5 is what you got it at here on Green Line. So
yeah,
who are you going?
I think I'm going to go with the Steelers covering that. Look, Will Levis was really impressive Week 1. I was a fan of his coming out. I'm still not buying it yet until we see whether he holds up against TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, the edge presence that the Steelers can bring.
Have I bet on the Steelers every single week? I feel like I have.
I don't know.
And then I trash them on the Monday show.
Every week.
I talk them up on Thursday and then trash them. But I'm gonna take Pittsburgh because next gen stats say this game is not in Nashville.